dreams collide. High road roaring every night. Spotlight on Spurs, feel the fight. Spotlight on Spurs.
What's up, guys? Luke here from Spotlight on Spurs. Another Thursday pod talking all things Tottenham core. The amount of conversations we can have about Spurs, announcing loads and loads of signings, mainly backroom staff and directors of football and all of that sort of stuff. Just the fans love to see and hear. We've got Chris back on the show as always. How are we doing, my man? You all right?
I'm all good. You always say that, like you're shocked that I'm back on the show. Sometimes it feels like it's almost like you say it like, oh, he's back again. Oh, he's back again. I'm always here.
Yeah, I know, but like this is Tottenham. Who wants to talk about Tottenham every 5 minutes? Me?
This is a good thing.
You, quite clearly.
Even when there's nothing going on, there's always something going on. There's always something to talk about. There's always something that's annoying someone or good. So, happy to be back.
Mate. Completely agree. Thanks again for coming on. We've got the dream team, the double act. They're on together. We're on again together. Unfortunately for them guys. But Connor, how we doing, my man? Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Good to be on with you again. And good to see you, Chris. It's actually nice to have a new face, although we have met a few times, obviously. But yeah, I'm good. I'm good, mate. Another week of Tottenham. Got West Ham to look forward to at the weekend. So we'll see.
Another updated spreadsheet of directors of football and staff roles. Love to see it.
That's it.
Love to see it. Billy, my man, thanks again for coming on. How are we doing?
Very good, man. Very good. Good to be on with the elite panel and looking forward to getting into it, mate. It's never a quiet week with Tottenham, is there? And lots to get into.
As always, never a dull day in paradise. Cheers, guys, for coming in. So first of all, let's just start off. For anyone that doesn't know, you probably do already, but this marketplace of YouTube is getting absolutely flooded with podcasts. All these newbies coming in. Obviously, only joking, but there is a new podcast on the scene that I have no doubt is going to go down very, very well. Connor, do you want to give the listeners a little bit of info in terms of what they can expect if you're accepting guests on, that sort of stuff? Let the guys know where they can find this new podcast.
Yeah, of course, mate. So yeah, Billy and I were chatting and we thought that the Tottenham YouTube community was missing some eye candy. So we thought we'd set up a show. But no, seriously, podcast, it's called The Whistle Blows. Obviously a bit of an ode to the halftime song, McNamara's band. But yeah, we are planning on launching tomorrow night, 9 p.m, with a Change for Tottenham special given the protest on Saturday. And then basically regular shows Sundays generally, and then midweek, normally Wednesdays we're going to aim for. But yeah, we are planning on having guests on. I think, Luke, you will be one of the first. Yeah, lots of different sort of content around sort of light-hearted stuff, bit of analysis type stuff, finances, all of that sort of jazz. So yeah, really looking forward to getting going, and thank you for your support, Luke, as well, and your help behind the scenes as well. It is much appreciated.
No problem at all. As I said, I don't know much, but the very little I do know, I'm more than happy to volunteer that information. we're still relatively new as well, but that's all what it's all about. We all go through this misery of watching Spurs day in, day out and talking about them as well. So a little bit of help, a little bit of support doesn't go amiss. Guys, the link is in the channel. I've also pinned the message as well. So the YouTube channel is there. Just over 500 subs already before the first show. Would really, really appreciate it if you guys could go over there and sub to two great guys within the community. Everybody's seen their faces. Sorry about that. Including myself as well. I'm not including just them two in that. I'm talking about all four of us here. But if you can drop over there, guys, and drop a subscribe, and as I say, launching tomorrow, 9 p.m. I believe. So, right, guys, let's start with it. So obviously the Gallagher deal has been announced. It was a long time coming in the aspect of only been chasing him for 2.5 years, but Spurs have finally got over the line on that one. Obviously had the media and everything. It was kind of broken the day before. It was a bit of a hijack. And I think quite a lot of Spurs fans were happy that we was able to kind of beat Villa to the signing. But Chris, what are your thoughts on Gallagher being wrapped up and signed at Tottenham? It's been a strange one in the fan base. It's been really, really strange. Some people are saying great signing. Some people are saying complete waste of money. Where do you sit with it, my man?
I don't think it's a waste of money. I think for the price we're paying for him, I think it's the similar price as to what Atletico paid for him when they bought him off Chelsea. And maybe the Chelsea link is what sort of the Spurs fans are sort of saying, well, hang on a minute, why is he coming to us? He's obviously a Chelsea boy, but I think it's what we need in the team at the minute. Another player in the midfield who can put in a challenge, but who can also pick up the ball, get the passes going, play in between the lines and move forward with it as well. And we're getting injuries. I think I see earlier that Bergvall might be available for Saturday. Bentancur, obviously we don't know how that looks quite a bad one, but it's just good that we're actually. It's a shame we're signing it as the players are getting injured and we're sort of reacting to the injuries. But I think it'd be a good signing for us, and hopefully he can kick on and we see him on Saturday.
Yeah, he's there's some videos out today and some pictures out today of him training. But Bentancur has been ruled out for 3 months now, with an injury. So yeah, as you say, it is a reaction, but at least it's a quick reaction and not wait until the end of the window and then being stuck. But
and someone who can obviously play as well. We always talk about players that can't. We're signing players who can't step into the first team straight away. So having someone like that who can step in is obviously good.
Yeah, completely agree. Connor, where did you sit on the whole Conor Gallagher signing?
Look, I think I've always rated Gallagher. It's quite interesting because in some of my other WhatsApp chats that I'm in with mates that are non-Tottenham fans, they were looking for old messages where I was slagging him off when he was at Chelsea and they couldn't find any because I actually, I did rate him at Chelsea. I thought he had a good spell at Palace as well. I think I think people are getting sort of hung up on the fact that he's not the ideal profile that we need in midfield because we desperately need a ball playing midfielder. But that being said, he's a definite improvement on what we have got. Available, touch wood, don't want to jinx it. It would be very Tottenham for him to go and get injured after never missing a game for injury or whatever the stat is. But super available. I think he's got great leadership qualities. He's got a lot of good attributes. So as Chris says, he goes straight in the first team, which is a really good signing to be able to make in January. And as much as we all hate saying it, January is more difficult, and we're going to find it difficult to prize out, especially given our current situation and where we sit in the league. We're going to find it difficult to prize out that ball playing midfielder we all want in the January window. And so this is a definite improvement. I think that has to happen in the summer still, if that's not going to happen now. And that needs to be a big money signing. But I think if you say Gallagher's in your sort of 4 or 5 midfielders that you've got to pick from, I think you're very, very happy with that overall. And there's a lot of intangibles he brings as well, just in terms of attitude, proper professional, around the dressing room, leadership, as we're saying, that people I think sometimes underrate. And I mean, at Tottenham, God, don't we need that sort of stuff with some of the clowns we've got? So, I'm pretty happy about the signing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've seen a lot of people saying that he's going to take away minutes from Gray and Bergvall. But I also think with them intangibles, with the off the pitch stuff, that will also help them grow as footballers just as much as being on the pitch. And if you've got a load of players around you that are not the kind of that you would want to learn from, i.e. Basuma, Bentancur's had his off the pitch stuff go wrong as well. This is a sort of person that you'd be looking up to, like a Gray specifically, looking at him going, actually, off the pitch, this is exactly what I should be doing. So completely agree on that. I know, Billy, I know you're not the biggest fan of Frank, but it has come out that apparently Frank has been the motivational one to get the deal over the line. I've never known any signing to turn around and go, I had a spoke with a manager, I weren't too sure on him, but Frank apparently was the guy to get it all over the line. What were your thoughts on Gallagher?
Yeah, I think it's a really smart signing, to be honest. Obviously, with the Bentancur injury, he'll come in and immediately play. I think, obviously, the fact that he won't be able to play in the 2 Champions League games is interesting, because that means probably Archie Gray will have to play in those. But Gallagher, I imagine, will definitely fit straight into the team. I think it's a good, smart signing. Like, he's 25, coming into the prime of his career. He's a proper, he's going to get all around the pitch. He can score goals as well. He's much more, when he played under Pochettino, much more creative and goal scoring than people might think that he was under Simeone, because Pochettino played him in the 10. And obviously, I know a lot of people have been joking about that, they might be linking up again in some way, if only. But I know Pochettino absolutely loved him and vice versa. So if Pochettino loves him, then that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, you must have seen the notes that I've got here about what to talk about next, and the next thing is, does that signify that Poch is coming back? I'll come straight back to you on that one, Bill. Is that a sign to say, Poch, we've gone and signed your star boy, as some people say it, your captain, your golden child? Is that showing that all the signs lead to Maurizio Pochettino returning?
I'll be honest, I don't think we need another sign. This guy would join us, whoever we signed. He's desperate, isn't he? So in every interview he talks about it. So do you know what? I think he actually suits Thomas Frank, and the way that Thomas Frank plays really well as well. So I think it's a genuine Frank sign, and I would love it to be, thinking long term about Pochettino coming in the future. But I think Thomas Frank will be absolutely delighted with the sign as well, because it really suits that kind of aggressive, combative style that we are aiming to play, but don't seem to be able to play often. And hopefully, Conor Gallagher will be able to help us with that.
Yeah, completely agree. Big James Fowler, Mr. Man, thank you very much for coming in. Would you take Poch back? I think that's clear from Billy. I think it getting to a little bit of a point like last year where a lot of fans were saying anyone but Frank, but he would definitely be taking Poch back.
Or Alonso. I'm not that fussy. Him or Alonso.
Or Shabby, whatever one of them. We'll take the lot. Connor, is it a sign? Is Poch on his way back, or is this just the itch that keeps on going on and on and on, a bit like Bow, a bit like Kane, where it just went on for years? Do you think this is a sign that maybe, or do you think it's 2 birds with 1 stone, right? He's a player that's going to improve the team regardless, and then if Poch wants to come in, that he's a player that Poch likes. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think I think Frank will love Gallagher, won't he? I mean, the bloke only ever goes on about people winning duels and pressing, and if there's one, if you open a dictionary next to the word pressing, I think Gallagher would be there, right? So because he's amazing at it. So I think, I think Frank will love him. To be honest, it wouldn't even shock me to see Frank play him in the 10 at times. You know how he was using Sarr at the start of the season to be that sort of real forward press, and he's quite good at box crashing and scoring goals. And obviously, I want Simmons in the 10. I'd rather play Gallagher in the 8, but I could see Frank doing that when midfielders are back fit. But I think with Gallagher, a lot of people spoke about in January, if Frank is not the man longer term, do we want to spend money back in the wrong horse or whatever? But I think players like Gallagher will fit in under any manager. I don't think it matters who the manager is. I think he can find a role because he's so versatile in terms of playing any of those sort of positions in midfield. He's been under very different types of managers as well and been pretty successful. I think I don't think the Gallagher signing leans to anything. But on the Poch question specifically, I think it is an itch that we all need as a fan base. I think the Lewis family, Finai, whoever as well, will probably think this is a way to get the fans back on side. It's a really easy PR move, isn't it, in the summer to go, oh, look, we're bringing back Poch. And look, I don't know whether it will definitely work this time. Returns often don't. But I mean, I loved Poch when he was, as all Spurs fans did, and I think it was absolutely criminal the way that ENIC treated Poch in terms of the complete lack of backing, and the job that he did in spite of the ownership was absolutely unbelievable. And so I hate it when I come back onto shows now and I hear people sort of diminishing Poch by saying, "Oh, we never got it over the line," and those types of comments, because actually I think we all as Spurs fans enjoyed that 5 years a lot more than we've enjoyed the five years or so since, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely been a difficult time. Obviously, Poch, I think regardless, this is going to be one of them, as I said, with Bale, with Kane, that it's just going to go on and on, regardless of what happens and how good. As soon as there's a dip in any sort of form from the manager, from the team, it's going to be a case of, what about Poch? Where is he? What's he doing? Even the fact that he went to Chelsea, there's still fans that have no care about that whatsoever. And I don't blame him for that, to be honest with you. Chris, is Poch coming back? All you do is talk about Kane returning, and Kane's the star man, and we need to get Kane back. Are we bringing all the old boys back? Should we get Ericsson, Kane? Should we go get Dele Alli? Should they all be coming back? What do you think? Is Poch coming back?
I think I see a rumor on Twitter that Eric Dyer has been offered to West Ham and he's available. And I was like, well, I think that might be pushing it a bit too far if we start looking to hijack them sort of transfers. Listen, give me Poch, give me Kane. Gallagher can go in the middle as well. And honestly, I think I'd be the happiest Spurs fan in the world. Just bring them all home. Just bring them all home, and we'll just. I think the fan base in a whole would be on the lift. There'd be a massive lift in the fan base. You'd have everyone singing and dancing. I can't imagine there'd be a few people obviously that won't be like, oh, as you say, he's never brought it home. He never won a trophy. He got close, but no cigar. But I think he'll have the ambition and the drive to get us there. And I think if the board are going to change their tune and start backing managers and buying players like the Conor Gallagher's that we know that will improve our starting 11 now, and if that's going to be the same motto going forward, then there's no reason why Poch won't come back with better circumstances as it was before, and hopefully bring us that trophy that we all want for everyone back in the Tottenham.
Yeah, 100%. And I can't imagine. I mean, we say this with every manager, but I can't imagine him coming back and going to be held back in terms of, there's no point in returning to completely foul if he doesn't get some sort of backing. So he's going to have to get some sort of promise of players, whatever that may be, investment, whatever it is. He's going to have to get some sort of promise if he was to return. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Frank, whether he's going to be staying, whether they're going to back him, whether they've not. They announced today about Johnny Heitinga coming in, who has previously been a manager, and he's going to now be the assistant manager at Spurs, looking at basically replacing Matt Wells, who was the defensive coach, despite him saying how he loved attacking football when he was announced as the manager. But we don't need to go into that. Again, this is just Spurs, and that's the way things operate. But Heitinga has been a manager in previous occasions, probably not at the huge success, but he has been a manager. Is this, Chris, possibly the board putting in place an interim that's already in the club if they was to decide, actually, with Frank, it's not tight, he's not going to be the man to continue, and maybe a Poch in the summer is the alternative, but just to get people back on side, is Heitinga there possibly as that sort of interim that will come in and take over if Frank gets the chop?
I don't know if there's any loyalties between Heitinga and Frank. So even if Frank had 2 or 3 games and then it didn't go well and the ball went, you know what, it just needs really to change. It'd be hard to see a point where we'd bring him in and then he would leave with Frank if there is no loyalties there. So possibly that, but for me, I think there's a position to be filled, and obviously there's been discussions had, and that's who Frank wants in. Because ultimately he's the one to be working with every day. So yeah, I just feel like there's a position to be filled, and Frank's picked his person that he wants to be in there, and that's it done. I think if there was to be an interim position was to come up, it would make sense for Heitinga to step in for the period or 2, like Ryan Mason did when he was on the coaching staff as well. I'm not sure if there's any other coaches that would. I think Frank brought a lot of the coaches with him that are in his backroom staff now. So I imagine a lot of them would probably stay loyal and potentially go with him if he was to go. So yeah, it does make sense with that, with the interim stuff as well.
Yeah, I'll come on to you in a second, Connor. Alfie, just speaking about the protest with Billy about what's gonna happen. We are gonna have a little segment in a little while, just all around the protest and anything else. So if anyone's got any questions, I'll save them and we'll come back to them once Billy's kind of give the information around what will be happening and where everything will be taking place. So we'll come back to this. As I said, if anyone's got any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll go through them in a little while. Connor, do you think that Heitinga's the backup option? Is this the sort of last resort, or do you just think it's coincidental that he previously was a manager and he's just applied for a position?
I think it's coincidental, to be honest. I reckon Frank was quite involved in the interview, and then apparently that came through in some of the statements and things. And I think that what has been quite, I don't know loads about Heitinga. Obviously, I know he was at Liverpool and Ajax, didn't really, as you say, go to plan at Ajax. But Liverpool fans on Twitter have been melting down a little bit actually over it. The fact that he's joining us, I think they're quite disappointed because I think I think there's a feeling amongst Liverpool fans that he was a big contributing factor in terms of them winning the league and helping slot settle and all of that type of stuff. So obviously he must be a fairly talented coach, you'd hope. Sometimes, people are good coaches, not necessarily great managers. It's a different job being the number one compared to being the number two. I always think of Carlos Queiroz. You remember the guy who was with Ferguson? He was a number two, tried the number one thing, didn't quite go particularly well. And there's been plenty of examples of that over the years. McLaren is another one, just thinking of United. And so I don't know what that was, an alarm going off on my phone at 5 to 10. I don't know what. But yeah, I think it's coincidental. I reckon the club told Frank that he's got the season, to be honest. I think unless something went like horrific, i.e. we lose 5, 6, 7 games in a row, I just think Vinay has decided he's going to give Frank the season regardless. And I think that's sort of shown in the way that they were talking about the Gallagher signing, this coach coming in. So unfortunately, I don't think Billy's going to get his wish, at least yet.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that they're very much going to do similar to what they've done with Ange and said that we're going to give you every opportunity. I think Ange's was to stay in that Europa League for as long as possible, and I think Frank's they're going to turn around and say is unless there's a catastrophe, if you go and lose a few on a trot or you get some really big defeats back to back, then I agree. I think Billy is going to be an unhappy man. But Bill, do you think Heitinga is the guy to take over in the interim if that sort of stuff does happen?
I mean, the only thing at least he's been in the job before, which I guess is good. And has a bit of experience. So, to be honest, he's not really. I don't know anything about his managerial style or anything about how he did with Ajax. I know that it sounds like looking at that whoever's Ajax manager at the moment is in a bit of a crisis because they just got smashed by Troy Parrott's team, didn't they, at the weekend? So, but yeah, I'm not really. Yeah. Don't really know much about him, but in all seriousness, no, I do think Frank will be here till the summer unless there's a major disaster. I think if we lost on Saturday, for example, which is unthinkable really, but could happen. I think then it could get really toxic, and then you might see him sort of dwindling towards losing his job. But I don't think we will lose Saturday, to be honest. I think West Ham are terrible, so famous last words, but we should win that one really. And I think Frank will be here till summer, and then they can reassess. But it might just make it a slightly easier decision by the board if we go on if we don't pick up any form, especially now that he's having another transfer. That's 5. I think he's had 5. Ready-made first players now, Frank, into the, if you can count Moani, Paulinho, Xavi, and Conor Gallagher onto that as well, that list, which no other manager under ENIC has really had. So he's got to start turning things around soon, you'd imagine.
Yeah, completely agree. And we'll go on to West Ham just in a minute, but we're just going to talk about the whole Paratici announcement that your director of football's leaving midway through a transfer window, which he's supposed to be in charge of, which is superb. So in terms of the transfer window, it's 1-1. It's 1 player in and 1 director of football out, which is perfect. Another score draw for Spurs. Still no win there. Chris, Paratici leaving midway through a transfer window where he's the one that's prepped and ready all the signings, and he's also managed to get a couple of signings over the line for his other club, Fiorentina, who have signed 2 players. So he's doing a better job for his new club than he is for his current club. What are your thoughts on him leaving midway through a transfer or the announcement coming out midway through a transfer window?
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, go on.
Okay. Just typical Spurs. You couldn't write it any other way, I don't think. I've just seen as well that apparently Richarlison's out for 7 weeks, which is fantastic. So hopefully we sign a new striker as well. If we're just replacing injured players, that'd be brilliant if we could get someone in. But I mean, it's more of who's going to take over once he's gone. And if it's going to be Langer, then that just fills me with no hope whatsoever. We're going to be signing 17 and 18-year-olds that are going to be ready potentially in 5 years' time. So something needs to change very quick, and there needs to be someone coming in that can also do the job.
Yeah, completely agree. Do you think that this is a sign just of where Spurs are at right now? And obviously, speaking of Langer, do you think that he's the guy to take over? There's been a lot of rumours that it's probably the end of the time for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, we're going to come on to the protest later, but for me, this whole Paratici business is one of the main reasons why I think the protest is definitely timed at the right time now. Because again, it just proves what an absolute circus we are in terms of any sort of strategic decisions or planning that's done at this club. I remember being on shows. I probably said it to you, Luke, on one of the many shows we've appeared on together. Back at the end of the summer, and I said, get rid of Langer, don't re-employ Paratici, and hire one competent sporting director who's not a criminal. They didn't do that, and then here we are, as you say, at the start of a window. It's only been 3 months since they both sat down on the sofa and told us all about how they're going to be working together, and he's going. I mean, it's just an absolute shambles. Again, I agree with Chris. We can't leave it to Langer after this. I think, for me, the absolute priority for this football club, if the ownership are not going to move on as we want them to, is that as soon as this transfer window closes, they sack Langer, they go and hire a sporting director, and they say to that sporting director, we're going to give you autonomy and the keys to go and transform this football club, and let that person pick the new manager as well if Frank's not the right man and Frank hasn't drastically turned things around. Because I don't also trust. So this is the reason why I wouldn't sack Frank now. So I don't trust these clowns who are in charge to pick the right manager next either. And so I'd rather they do the sporting director first, then do the manager. And I think there's better candidates available in the summer anyway, to be honest, particularly with the World Cup and things like that. So yeah, I mean, this Paratici thing is just an absolute joke. I don't know why we're letting him continue to work for us either. I mean, that's another farce, because why are we letting him continue to be involved in signings when he's effectively checked out? I mean, just bizarre. But anyway,
you obviously haven't read his statement, because he's always going to look out for Spurs, because he's part of the project and he believes in the project. Hence why he's leaving the project. Bill, what do you think about Paratici and the whole Tottenham Hotspur saga?
Yeah, shambles, to be honest, mate. Shambles. This was their first big football hire from the Lewis family. The first thing that they did was hire or rehire Paratici. Some people might say that was possibly a Levy hire, but if that's true, that's even worse. They don't have any conviction where they can do things themselves. If it was never going to work, then why do it in the first place? So it's not a good look for optics. It's not a good look for what's going on at the club. And I think for anyone that's ever worked like a notice period, I don't imagine Paratici has got the fire in his belly at the moment going for January, thinking, oh wow, I've got to do the best possible work I can do. He's probably just thinking, I've just got to try and get through to the end of the month and then get out of here. So I think it's a real bad look that he's still here. A real bad look that he's still. They should have, as soon as this was announced, they should have just said, right, go, and have a bit more conviction there. It's just smacks of trying to save face a little bit, because I know that I'm sure that his heart is not properly in it, and probably why we're almost halfway through January today, and then still haven't addressed all the areas that we need to address.
Yeah, 100%. And as I said, he's actually at his new club, Fiorentina, got one deal with Spurs, and then Harrison's also over the line there. So it looks like he's got two over there and only one at this moment in time, albeit we are supposedly close on Souza, and that deal's supposed to be done at some point this week. Obviously, there's been another sort of announcement that that isn't happening immediately, but it is taking place over the coming weeks and months. Rafi Mortson coming over from City. One thing that I've been saying for quite a while is that Spurs haven't got to try and reinvent the wheel here. Learn from the big clubs what they're doing, because they're successful at it. Maybe going and getting some of their good staff behind the scenes is a way forward. Some of the signings that we've made from like backroom and that sort of stuff, the people that have come in have not come in with great reputations. Langer is a prime example. Aston Villa were absolutely delighted that we paid a transfer fee to get him across because they didn't want him. What do you think in terms of what's going on behind the scenes, Connor? I know you've got your little spreadsheet of where who sits and under whom. What do you think is going to be his sort of role at Spurs? Because it seems to be every person that we're getting across is stepping up into a bigger role, and they're taking on a bit more responsibility at the club. But if they're coming over with a good reputation, surely that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think none of us get that excited, do we, other than me, when I'm updating my little structure chart, as you say, about all of these off-the-pitch hires. But I think what it shows is that, to be honest, again, what a shambles we were off the pitch, that we need to be making all these hires. I think we're just light years behind the competition. Rafi comes in as the director of football operations, which reports into the sporting director, Langer, as it is currently, who we all want to move on. I mean, he's going to be doing some fairly administrative stuff around sort of making sure we register players in the right way and get the contracts done in the right way and all that type of stuff. I know he's overseeing some of the training ground stuff. It's a fairly important role. I mean, the thing is Arsenal do have one. They have one. Most of the big clubs have this. So they have this director of football operations who sits under the sporting director, which I suppose allows the sporting director to focus on what you want them to focus on, which is, actually making sure that we are getting player transfers over the line and, running the negotiations with players and that type of thing. So it's an important hire, but I don't think anyone cares that much unless he can suddenly pass the ball in midfield or play on the left wing or something, right? So, which he can't. So, but we need to grow up as a football club, and this is part of that. I think, all these hires are just we're no longer that £90 million business that ENIC bought. We're worth £3.5 billion, and it's just a completely different kettle of fish. But I think what this does show, as I said at the start, is we've underinvested in everything. This is the reason the medical team is shit. It's the reason the academy is poor and we don't have many players. If you look at Chelsea and Arsenal are in London, right, like us, all part of the big six, look at the number of players Chelsea and Arsenal have had come through their academy and either get into the first teams or move on to other Premier League clubs, and then you compare that to us. I think that shows that we've underinvested in that as an area, and you can run that for every department. So hopefully they're starting to change that. But as I say, I think really what you actually need is the ownership to change, and so you have that real culture reset. But that's unfortunately not going to happen, I don't think.
Yeah, Bill, I'm sure you've said this on previous, but is this the only club where we have to have discussions on every single YouTube channel about a director of football that's coming in, one that's going out halfway through a season, a new chief of operations, a new gardener, whoever it is? There's always conversations about what's happening in the backroom staff. I'm sure this sort of thing happens at every club, but no one talks about it. They just come in and go out. Why is it always at Spurs we're discussing everything?
I think that's the culture that Daniel Levy sort of created at Tottenham. He had like this sort of God complex, and it's really weird when you look at other clubs. It's not the same at any club ever. Like the chairman at Arsenal, like you don't get anywhere near as much. Like anytime that anything happens with Arsenal, it's always sort of it's always linked with Arteta, isn't it? You very rarely hear about the structure behind it, the chairman, and all of that. Same with other clubs. Man City, I couldn't even. And obviously, I know they have the oil behind them. I couldn't tell you the actual executives that are behind it. Daniel Levy sort of had this sort of God complex where he wanted to have a control of every single facet, and as a result, his name became so much reported in the news and so much like associated with everything we do, because he had this kind of want to be the one seen as the best negotiator in Europe and the one that does all the transfers and all that kind of thing. And as a result, sort of 25 years of that has meant that the board level at Tottenham has discussed an insane amount of detail compared to other clubs. I could not tell you. Liverpool doesn't happen. I know obviously they have high-profile chairmen and high-profile figures, but it's not the same weekly news cycle that Tottenham have, where this sort of discussion goes on without, almost every single week. It's because I think it sort of came down from Levy, and you can see it since he's gone that we've had like 5, 6, 7 different people hired or whatever to do the same job that he was doing. And the fact that one man was doing all those jobs together is speaks for a bit of an outdated structure, really. So it is kind of good that we're changing it, and hopefully this will benefit us long term. But I've never known anything like it where this much is discussed in such detail other than Tottenham.
Chris, is this just further evidence that we as fans don't believe in the recruitment strategy, the staffing strategy, the strategy of the club? Is it just proof that we don't believe in anything they do? Because, as I say, this happens at every club, but there's never conversations. There's never, I wonder if he's any good. There's never, or what's he done in previous? It's just, he comes in, it's under the radar, and fans don't care. But Spurs, we just don't believe in anything that this club's doing at this moment in time. Is that right?
I think when you look through the actual structure and you see the signings we've made over the past 5 years, how many flops or how many of them haven't come to what they should have been or what they was like looked at. So then you look at the recruitment side of it and you think, well, that's gone wrong. Then you look at the medical side and you think, well, hang on a minute, Dragusin's done his ACL and he's on the sideline doing star jumps and that, like to try and see if he can shake it off. And then what I think Ange had an interview last year where he's saying, oh yeah, he's going to be out for a week, and then the geezer's still not back now, I don't think. So then you go, well, hang on a minute, what's going on with the medical team? And then there's changes at the top, and we've brought in this Paratici who's going to be a game changer. We're going to get all these signings, it's going to be good, and he's maybe made 1 or 2 decent signings, and the rest of them have been like maybe. So and I think if a club never had, not everyone's looking at their medical team or their scouting team or their directors. Not every club's looking at that because they're not having issues in all these different areas. Whereas for us, it seems like the whole club is not being run to the ground, but it's that there's so many issues and there's so much wrong that's being done in the club that you have to then look at all these different departments. And I remember saying at the end of last season, someone needs to come in and just say, we want an external company to come in here and just do a full review of this club and what's going right, whatever's going wrong, and how do we change that? Because it's quite clear that internally we're just the same people are hiring the same people, or they're hiring the same types of people, and it's never getting right. Or we're just not getting rid of the people that are not doing what the club needs and replacing them with what we do want. And again, it maybe comes down to the vision of the club and what direction are we going in. It's like hiring a manager that wants to play attacking football, and then you've hired a sort of a counter-attacking, more defensive-minded manager. It doesn't fit what the club's looking for. Maybe we all think that the club should be looking in this direction, but the club's actually just looking in a completely direction, but just not communicating that to the fan base and saying, this is what we're trying to do. We understand what you want, but we've got to go this way first to maybe get to where you want us to be. But I don't know. It just seems like from top to bottom, there's just too many mistakes and nothing changes. And exactly that. Then I've been saying this for a number of years now. If the owners at the top don't change, doesn't matter what manager we get in, we're never going to compete and achieve. Obviously, last season we won something, but again, the 2 potential worst teams in the Premier League that didn't get relegated were in the final, and that proves a lot to me.
Yeah, and you can fluke stuff, right? At the moment, all we're doing is relying on that bit of luck to clinch a cup. Like if anyone sat there and said Spurs in the next 5 years are going to win a league, you'd be like, not in any way, shape or form. But actually, if you look at the other top clubs around, you could say, yeah, with a couple of changes here, there, and everywhere, maybe we could see that happening. So I definitely agree, mate. I think
you just need to look at the stats on the pitch as well. Like, how many goals have we scored from open play this season? Because I don't think it's many.
No, we've scored more set piece goals this year percentage wise than we have, I think, in about 10 or 15 years. It's been a long time. And it probably even goes back for longer than that, to be fair.
That's good to have if you're also scoring other goals as well. But to having to rely on just set piece goals is not what we need to be seeing. We need to be seeing more goals being scored from open play. And I think stats like that just prove that the club isn't, the football that's being played right now is not that of what the supporters and probably even the players that want to play themselves as well.
Yeah, completely agree. Guys, we're going to go on now to discuss a little bit about the protest. Just before we do, I have pinned up on the very top of the chat. There is a brand new YouTube channel that is coming to YouTube tomorrow. The guys below will be hosting their first ever video. Please make sure you go over there and smash the subscribe button, and also go on their first video and drop a like on that as well. But what we are going to discuss now, before we go into West Ham, we're just going to get Billy on to discuss this here. It is all around the protest that is taking place at the game against West Ham. So, Bill, I'll leave it over to you, and just give the people that are watching just some information about what's going on, and then afterwards we'll answer any questions that we get in the chat.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the protest, the context behind it, first of all. So obviously, Change for Tottenham, we have done a number of protests last year against the ownership. This organisation is designed specifically to act against the ownership of this club, which is ENIC. And obviously, in some, we saw high-profile change at Tottenham. We saw Daniel Levy step down. Lots of people are still sceptical whether that meant real change or not, but we're trying to give the board a little bit of time to see what's going to happen. Obviously, they made a lot of promises in summer, so they'll put the football team first, and promise a new ambitious summer. January came along. We're out of the FA Cup. We're out of the League Cup. We're dwindling at 14th place in the league, and we really needed some major squad surgery in January to be able to get back to where we were. So far in January, halfway through January, that's not happened. We've signed one player in Conor Gallagher, but we've also lost a player. We're about even net spend when you work out everything, and I don't think any of that ambitious promise that the board sort of made us believe in summer and all their different videos we're talking about has been delivered so far. And it seems like another wasted season, another season in the new stadium that was promised to be a game-changing stadium, where we are shambles. And if you look at Tottenham, every corner of Tottenham at the moment, there is toxicity. There's toxicity at the manager level. The team is often being booed off at the stadium. The stadium attendances are dwindling as well. The club captain has come out against the board. The players are fighting the fans. The players are fighting other players. It's a real mess here at Tottenham. So we canvassed our fans at the beginning of January, and lots of fans were asking, can we protest in January? And there's two considerations about protesting in January. And one of them is, do you give the board the benefit of the doubt and see how the entire window goes and then protest at the end if you need to? Or can you protest during the window to try and add some pressure? So this protest is designed to put some pressure onto the board. It's designed for like-minded Tottenham fans to get together on the high road and meet each other, communicate together, have a little community feel, and voice their concerns that what's happening in our club at the moment is not good enough. So we'll be protesting at the West Ham game. We'll be meeting before the game at 2:00. The reason why we're meeting before the game is so that people that are not attending the game can come and air their voices as well. And then we'll be heading into the stadium to continue the noise too. We're asking for a visual protest, people to wear yellow, bring flags, banners, scarves, all that kind of thing. But these are family-friendly protests as well for anyone concerned about that. But we'll be meeting at 2:00 outside the Corner Pin pub on the corner of the Park Lane, just outside the High Road. For anyone unfamiliar with where that is, it's basically right by the ground outside Number 8 pub. There'll be people there. I'll be down there from before 2:00 anyway. People will be selling scarves if anyone is interested in that. They're not affiliated with Change for Tottenham, but they will be on sale. But really, it'll just be a chance for people to get together, come and voice their opinions against the boards, and make them known that, this season, another season going to waste is not acceptable for our fan base.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Billy. I must say, the one thing that I've seen as quite a lot of pushback or any comments that I've seen that have been a pushback on what's taking place has been around you should be getting behind the team and you should be backing the team on the pitch. Now, just to be clear, from an outsider looking in, I've not seen in any of these the recent protests where the atmosphere inside the stadium has been impacted in any way other than that part being planned by the protest. It's not like you're going into the ground and you can feel there's a negativity in the air. I think at the big protest where there was the huge numbers, the actual atmosphere inside the stadium was very, very good. So I disagree with a lot of people that are saying that this impacts the stadium impacts the atmosphere inside the stadium. I don't think that's the case at all. And Billy, I'm sure you agree with that, right?
Yeah, and so one of the key mantras of change for Tottenham is support the team, not the regime. And we all have our disgruntlements with the players at the moment, and they're sort of, fighting back against the fans in some ways on social media and stuff. But that's not what change for Tottenham is about. Change for Tottenham is always about supporting the team, particularly in a big derby against West Ham. A fierce derby, particularly in a big game, which we have to win, a must-win game. We're not going to do anything to upset the atmosphere. That's why it's well before kickoff outside the stadium, and then we encourage fans to go, if they have a ticket, to go inside and support the team. So yeah, that's definitely not something that Change for Tottenham will ever be about. Is we'll always support the team, not the regime.
Perfect. And then a couple of questions one question that came in from Alfie. Billy, is the protest going to be people standing around outside the corner pin pub area, or is it a march walk along the high street? Standing around isn't good because of an ACL/MCL injury, which ironically loads of Spurs players have had recently. So standing around for long periods is more difficult with his knee injury. What is the sort of what are the plans to kind of do outside of the pub?
Yeah, so what I would say is that normally we meet a bit further down the high road and then march down together. We're not doing that this time just because this is our first protest that we've ever done in the middle of winter. So we don't want people to be hanging around and sort of standing around for ages and then walking down. And then, they usually end up being about an hour outside. So that's why we're meeting at 2:00, a bit earlier towards kickoff. So I would say just join us for whatever is manageable for you in between 2 and 2:30, and then you can make your way into the ground whenever you feel comfortable to do that. This one is not a march one, it is a standing around one. But just join us whenever you can and whatever you feel comfortable with, because just showing your face is enough support that we need, really. And if we can get good numbers there, hopefully send a good message to the board that they have to do better than what we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, Bill, again, thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. Guys, as I said, you've got all of the information there. We will be releasing it as a video as well, a short video tomorrow that will go out. So please subscribe, share it as well. Get it to as many people as possible. As Sully said here, boots on the street, boycott the shop, don't buy food and drink inside the stadium. Let's show a good sense to the board to make sure that they fully understand that potentially the Conor Gallagher signing isn't going to be the difference between Spurs fans being happy or not. As Udang said here, 40 people in here. I think there's maybe even a few more than that now. Please make sure you're liking, subscribing to the channel. As I said, you'll see in numerous times throughout today's show, we will be posting everybody's X accounts. We'll also put the Change for Tottenham account in there as well, so you can go and subscribe or follow them on X. And then, as I said, one more time, top of the chat, you should be able to see the brand new YouTube channel that has been set up by both Connor and Billy. They will be going live tomorrow for the first ever show. Please make sure you go over there and subscribe to their channel as well. Obviously, in terms of the protest, it is taking place effectively against West Ham. So they are the ones coming up. Chris, we always have a different affiliation with West Ham, being that we've got so many West Ham fans around us. I'm sure we've all got them in group chats. And we know what Saturday's going to be like if they win their World Cup. But Chris, against West Ham, it is going to be a difficult game regardless of the form and that sort of stuff. What are you expecting from the game against West Ham, and do you think Gallagher will start that game?
I'll start off with the first bit. What do I expect? Probably West Ham to come out of a fight, because they're always up for it against us, especially at our own ground as well. So they're going to want to come to us and turn up. So I'm expecting West Ham to come out fighting. But I think we'll have enough, and I think if we can get an early goal, we'll kick on from there. Gallagher starting might be slightly early, but it depends if he has a couple of days training with the boys as well. He might even get 60 minutes, or he might come on for like half hour. It would depend on if Bergvall is fit to probably start. He might give Bergvall the start and then bring Gallagher on.
Yeah, Connor, what do you think? Do you think he goes straight in, Conor Gallagher? And obviously your thoughts on the West Ham game, what you expect?
Yeah, I think he does go in. Yeah, by the way, Sully 1952 is my dad. If you were wondering, but anyway, Yeah, I think Gallagher will start just because of who we've got missing, to be honest, as well. I think if perhaps if Bentancur was fit as well, he may he may have done, as Chris said, the sort of 60 minutes or whatever. But I think he will go straight in, which is I think is needed. And to be honest, he's been playing for Atletico. He played in the Copa del Rey game, didn't he, out in Saudi and stuff. So you expect him to be fit. And to be honest, even if he wasn't completely up with where the team is, we don't particularly have that many tactics in midfield anyway. So I'm sure he'll catch up quickly. So yeah, but I agree with Chris. I mean, surely we can't lose to this mob. I mean, Billy, we could have organised a joint protest with West Ham, to be fair, given their owners an absolute clown show.
They're actually protesting their next home game as well, funnily enough.
Oh, yeah. They're the only ones that sort of compete with us, them and United, probably. But yeah, I mean, surely we've got to beat these. If we can't beat West Ham, I think we've got some deep troubles.
The only thing that comes in there, Connor, is I'm pretty sure I looked at on Sunday. I had a quick look at West Ham's form, and they've not won in 11. And that's
there we go. Tottenham's here, Chris.
The Bournemouth,
and that is suspiciously. Yeah, we've heard that stat before, and it didn't go well. So.
That's so well renowned. Do you reckon, like, if we were a Bournemouth or we were a Brighton and we're sitting there going, "Oh, we ain't won in 5. When do we play Tottenham next?" Should I have a look, because we're guaranteed to get a win there. You know what I mean? It's like, it's got it written all over it. Bill, what are your thoughts? Do you think Gallagher comes straight in? And as I said, also, what are your West Ham game? What are your thoughts on
Luke? Have we got Dortmund midweek this week? Yeah, so I think Gallagher will start then, because obviously he won't be able to be involved at Dortmund, and then he'll play Archie Gray in midweek. Then I think obviously we know Bentancur, they're going to have to rotate between them. I mean, you got the outside chance of Bissouma being sort of in the mix, but I can't really see that. But I think there's a case for how bad our midfielder is at the moment that maybe Bissouma should get a look in one of those games. But
just quickly on Bissouma, he had a ridiculous AFCON, didn't he, as well? I mean, got sent off, skied that penalty.
Skied a penalty, and he's a captain as well.
For fuck's sake.
Yeah, he did. And I see that they hired some kind of voodoo guy, apparently, Marley, and he's just been sacked as well. So there you go. But yeah, I think we'll come in, and I think Gallagher will start. And it's such a good game for him, isn't it? West Ham. It just feels like a perfect game for Conor Gallagher to come in straight away. I've seen a couple of interesting things about the game. Is that I know Jared Bowen has written an open letter to the club, hasn't he, saying that they need to do better, and they've just hired a new first team coach or something this week. So they're going to be bang up for it as always. But I think they might have made a couple of signings, haven't they? I think. And Paqueta might be his last game as well. So there's all kinds of things that are going on, if you're a Tottenham fan, that will ring alarm bells there. And I even saw that we were in for Paqueta this January, but he's going back to Brazil. This will be his last game. So I think you have to worry there as well. We might see another Semenyo effect there. But yeah, we have to win this one, and we have to win it comfortably as well. I don't think if we go out and scrape a 1-0 win against West Ham, sort of, a set-piece goal, I think the knives are still going to be up for Thomas Frank. This has to be a Brentford level that we saw Brentford at home, where we go out and smash them, because if you can't smash West Ham, and as Conor Standard rightly pointed out there, we actually smashed them at their ground, didn't we? So it's got to be a comfortable win in this one, surely. Otherwise, massive alarm bells will be ringing.
Yeah, as I say, unless it's a catastrophe, then I don't think Frank's in danger of getting the sack. But I think that over the next probably couple of weeks, it's definitely going to be in the board's minds to say, if things don't improve drastically, then it might be the summer, the time to.
I think this is the kind of game, isn't it? That if the unthinkable happens and he loses, and the ground will get so toxic, especially with the protest before as well, I think he could go, but I don't think he will lose. Like it's like the Villa game, it was so toxic at half time with the boos, but then we managed to turn it around with a bit of a better performance. That's what we're clinging onto as a fan base at the moment, clutching at straws, aren't we? But if we lost this one, I think he could be in real trouble.
I think it's the manner of how we lose. If we do lose, again, it's the manner of how we lose, and it's the performance behind that. And if the fans are booing after 20, 30 minutes because we're 1-0 down or whatever, that just piles the pressure on even more for me.
But that's why I think Gallagher would be a great game for him to come into, because Gallagher's going to get in and amongst it. You can imagine him in the first couple of minutes just absolutely clumping someone. Him and Palhinha in the midfield. It's like that unfortunately, I think Frank's "I won't get beat today" is going to come into play a little bit. But hopefully, with Gallagher being next to Palhinha, it kind of allows them forward players to just go and do what they need to do, just get up the pitch. Maybe hopefully it provides them a bit of a base. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about whether Pedro Porro will start. I said on the last show on Sunday, it's really ironic that Spurs are pushing through a left back at the only time when we don't need a fullback at the club, because 4 of them were in the matchday squad. It's the first time all year, I believe, that we've had four fit fullbacks, and we're now pushing ahead to get a deal over the line for a fullback. But again,
he hasn't been signed, though, Luke. He's not over the line.
It's all done and dusted. Effectively, it looks like it's Brazil's off season, so the Brazilian league's finished. They've not played for a month, so it's not like something that needs to be rushed through.
Is it a case that he needs to be? Is it a case that he needs to sign before like 12 o'clock tomorrow?
12 tomorrow.
He's not going to be starting games. He's not played in a month, so at the very least, he's going to have at least a week or so's. And as Billy, I think it was Billy who said it, that obviously the Champions League game next as well, so he won't be playing in that. So that gives him a kind of week to kind of get in and train anyway. But as I say, there's now 4 fullbacks that are I say fit, available, because I don't know if any of them are fit. I think Porro's overused. I think Spence don't ever seem to start games back to back. Udogie's always out, and Ben Davies is the only player that probably still is there from Pochettino. So if we did bring him back, it would be a nice little reunion for them. But yeah, so I think it is a little bit like what Gallagher would be the perfect guy to kind of come in. And as we said before, the midfield options look a little bit bleak. So it'd be good to see him come in and kind of hopefully set some standards at the club. In terms of, and we mentioned it just a little bit, I think, Connor, you mentioned it about the new guy coming in and making sure that player registration and all of that sort of stuff is going ahead and going correctly. I don't know whether anybody's seen it, but the Valise news that came out where every Spurs fan was completely and utterly shocked that we was getting a transfer fee for a guy who looks like he's never played football. But there's also been a little bit of a hiccup in that deal as well, because it turns out that there isn't a recall clause in the contract. It's either because he's played too many games, or it's because we've chosen not to take it early enough in the window. There's been contrasting views on that, but effectively it looks like Spurs can't cancel that loan deal, which therefore means that the transfer can't go through without us negotiating with the loan club some sort of fee. I mean, this goes back to Matt Doherty going out on loan for us to find out he can't go out on loan, so therefore we're cancelling his contract. Can we get anything right at this football club, Chris?
Pure incompetence. That's not even like anything else. That's just pure incompetence. And if you can't get that done, then how do you have faith in anything else? It's bonkers. It really is bonkers. And yeah, there's nothing else to say for me about it. It's just pure incompetence. Absolutely bad.
Connor, is this why the man from Man City's come in? Because nobody knew what the rules were at Tottenham Hotspur, and that it sounds more like a £90 million business.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Chris is spot on. It is just pure incompetence. I mean, this doesn't happen to other football clubs, like not even small ones. You know, this is, and we're a giant football club, and this stuff goes on, and like it's not one example. You know, you don't just all right, they've messed that one up, and perhaps they never envisaged that we were going to sell for these. But you know, the Doherty one. I mean, even if you go to like the Gibbs White, what other football club triggers a release clause and then has what happened, like the way that played out? It's just all of the time that this shit goes on, and yeah, so perhaps this new guy that's coming in will be able to at least bring some structure and some competence to that sort of stuff. But I mean, we often say, don't we, that Spurs is a social experiment, and you know, we get so many examples from this sort of crap.
100%. I did see a stream earlier on where someone went, I'm not going to stick the knife in on Spurs here because I forgot that Valise even played for us, and I'm sure they probably did as well. So when a bid come in, they kind of went, who's this fella? Oh yeah, bring him back if we can get some money for him. Bill, is this just the reason behind part of the reason behind the protest? Because it's a shambles in so many departments across this club, and everything needs to be improved.
Yeah, no, it's that interview. I think it was a tweet. I don't know if we did a full article on it from Marcus Buckland, who's a Sky Sports News and has a Tottenham podcast, journalist, and he said it's an absolute shambles behind the scene. And, he said that it's like business suits running around and without any sort of real football knowledge is what he's heard that from a trusted source. So I imagine Daniel Levy's probably looking back, watching all this, thinking, laughing his head off, really, thinking, I mean,
the thing is, Bill, stuff like this isn't even, like, you could sort of go, oh, they've got no footballing people and that's why we keep signing shit players or whatever. But like stuff like this is so elementary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like writing contract. This is just standard sort of business procedure of, you've got a lawyer as well, presumably, who's helped you write it. Where's it gone missing?
It's funny. It's when you sort of, and it's when you look at like politicians and stuff as well, like these people running the country and they make these ridiculous mistakes. And Tottenham are a multi-billion £1 company, and the fact that these making these errors, it's not just a one-off as well. If it's a one-off, you think, oh, that's fine, but they do this all the time, like you mentioned with the Doherty thing there, countless times. There's just a bit of a shambles on and off the pitch at the moment, mate. And it's almost every corner that you look as well. I think the only thing that's going well at the moment is the women's team. So I'm thinking of defecting to them because they're flying at the moment. They're signing players, the manager's fantastic, playing well. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know why. I read that the manager said that he gets a weekly call from the executive chairman, Charrington. But I don't know what's going on with the men's team because there's no kind of competency there. So I'd recommend everyone to check out the women's team at the moment because they're absolutely flying.
If it's a phone call, he's probably dialing the wrong number because that's all we seem to do is miss.
Probably
So
Thomas Frank. So that's why we're not signing the women's managers telling the chairman that we're in the Champions League places.
Oh, mate, it's just absolute. I say it about Spurs all the time. We are absolutely crackers. It's the one thing that has kind of been, well, it's one of many things that have been labelled at the club in terms of getting players out the door. We get a bid in for a player that's no relevance, no use to us whatsoever, and somehow we've allowed a contract situation to stop us, our own player being able to be sold. It's just absolutely.
And also, Luke, the way
mad.
I imagine the way that the world is now, all the personal stuff gets agreed, and then it's a case of put the offer in. So there's obviously been a discussion there to discuss it and what can and can't be done and what needs to be arranged. You just got to do the official thingy. So the fact that that's obviously been done in the background, and then they put the official bid in, and we've gone, oh, actually, we can't actually do that, just proves that all that time and effort is just wasted.
Like with Scarlett last season, when he came back from Oxford, and then he came for us. And as soon as he stepped on the pitch for us, that means he can't go out to another club. So we couldn't loan him out again. It's like, and he's here at the moment, not getting a single second as well. So he must be thinking, what have I done to? And I think he deserves way more minutes than he probably gets as well. But last season, as soon as he came on as a sub, because it's like Harvey Elliott now. Harvey Elliott can't join another club at the moment because you can't play for more than 2 clubs in a season. And we saw it last season. But these kind of mistakes happen all the time at Tottenham.
Harvey Elliott played I think it was about 7 or 10 minutes for Liverpool, and now he can't play for another club. But Chris, you're right. Like, a lot of fans think that official bids are regularly sent over. You always hear in the papers a bid was rejected. These are not official bids. It's communication. Like, what we're at 50. Where are you at? No, we're not there. Okay, and as you said, a lot of this information actually takes place way before the bid goes in. They kind of get to an agreement. Is the play? What's the point putting a bid in if the player's got no interest? Although I'm sure Spurs have done that on occasions because we love making mistakes like that. But you're right. There would have been conversations. There would have been like what we're doing. Apparently there was a sell-on clause included as well. So all of this would have been decided, and then we'd have gone, oh, by the way, we can't actually sell him because we can't bring him back unless you want to take it in. Unless you want to take him in 6 months. It's just, and we talked about what Levy done with our clubs and putting himself in situations where it was always like a war. If you as an owner but you're not going to want to go back and go and look at Spurs players, you're going to think, well, what's going to go wrong here? Is like this is incompetence at the highest level. So it's just another vindication as to why Spurs are in where they are. To be honest with you, it's exactly why we are where we are. There are obviously still some rumours about players going out the door as well as coming in. So I was just going to touch on just a few of them. Obviously, as I said, there's the major one that seems to be really going through at this moment in time is Akliouche from Monaco. We obviously see him because we played against them. I think it was last year. And he was very, very good in the game. Chris, what are your thoughts on Akliouche? Would that be a player that you can get on board with at Tottenham Hotspur?
I'm sure I've seen a game he played for them this year, but he was more central. But what I keep seeing online is that he's more of a right-sided, like a right winger as such.
He is,
So
but he comes inside.
If he is in that position, I think we don't need that position. I think we'd be signing someone that, unless he can play on the left side seems to be where we need the players. So although he's a very good prospect, and from what I've seen of him, he's a very, very good player. I don't think he's going to come in and I don't think he'll start over Kudus. And you're not going to sign Kudus and then sign him and have two really good right wingers. So unless one of them is going to switch over to the left, and that solves that problem. For me, it's more. And then you've got Kulusevski to still come back, who always plays on the right-hand side as well. For me, it's just we're just stockpiling the right side. And again, he is a good talent, and I would take him. But there'd need to be some tactical changes where we fit him in, because I don't know who's going to get dropped from where he's going to play.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that it's I'm not saying they're exactly the same player, but Kulusevski and Akliouche all play in a very similar position. They all want to do very similar things in terms of come inside, etc. So I do think it is a strange signing from what we already have. However, he's obviously very, very good. Connor, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I've not seen loads and loads of him. Obviously, seen him when we played them, seen bits, on YouTube and all that type of stuff. He reminds me of Elise a bit, actually, in terms of the way he plays on that sort of right hand side. Not like sort of electric pace, but just able to beat a player. Very, very creative. Obviously left-footed as well, and can sort of nick a goal. So, but as you say, I think he prefers to play out on the right and drift in. That's his, and in theory we have got Kudus and Kulusevski, but Kulusevski's injury, maybe they're worried that it's worse than feared, and I mean, it was a bad one, right? Getting the knee like that. I mean, the photos on Instagram pretty grim that he uploaded himself. And then obviously with Kudus out, and perhaps they're just thinking, look, we need to get a body in the attacking positions. We know he's talented, and we're worried about the left wing market and who we can maybe get out there. And actually, ironically, you're all right. When the squad is fully fit, we are definitely better stocked on the right, but actually this very second, and until the end of the season, arguably the right-hand side has become a bigger priority in that short term than the left-hand side. But ideally, you'd get someone maybe who was versatile to play both, but then you get into that classic of what we've done so many times where we sign players who are versatile, and it actually means that they're not that good in any position.
They're not a specialist in anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, but look, I mean, I think if you said to me at the start of the winter, sometimes I do think you sign good players and then you solve for it later. I know you can, obviously, squad profiling is really important. And we'll need to do that. But if we're thinking Maddison or Kulusevski or both of them, as my dad said, are going to potentially not come back the same, we know Akliouche is a good talent, and that is the type of at least quality we should be signing. So I wouldn't complain about it. I'm sure people will, though, in the same way they have about Gallagher, because I know a lot of Twitter are so worried about the profiling of players. But I think we'll see.
Bill, what are your thoughts on Akliouche? Should that be a player you could get on board with, or do you think we need to be looking at other targets?
Oh no, I'm a big fan of the player. I think he's fantastic. I haven't watched loads of Monaco or anything like that, but I sort of did a bit of research in the summer, and he was one that I really wanted us to sign, because I think he can kind of play across the front three. He can play number 10, can play on the right wing in particular, where he's played most of his time for Monaco this year. But really creative player. I just feel like it's a good comp for Kulusevski. I think they're quite similar players. So obviously it'll be interesting if Kulusevski came back and we signed him. But I don't know about you guys. That thought doesn't even cross my mind at the moment, because it seems so long ago since he was injured. And even when he comes back, he's had a massive, massive injury. He might never be the same player again. So I think if anyone's banking on him to come back and be the player that he was last season, that could take a very long time. So I think this would be a great signing. I just think we're desperate for a bit of spark, a bit of creativity, and he's got that in spades. He showed against us where he was sort of tearing us apart at will. I think that'd be a really sensible signing. I know that there's a lot of other high-profile wingers on the left that we're sort of linked with. I saw a couple of links to Yildiz today. Diamande's been linked, but I think these players are unrealistic, sadly. For a club that is sat where we're at, 14th, I just can't see any of that caliber of player wanting to join us at the moment. Whereas someone like Akliouche is a bit younger. Maybe Yildiz is also a similar age. Maybe in the dream world, we might go and put 100 million for him and sign him, but I can't imagine this board doing that, sadly, as much as I'd love them to. So I think Akliouche is a good sort of make way for that, and a bit cheaper, same age, but a really, really talented player. And I don't think he's like he's not a prospect like someone like Odebear is. Like, this guy plays week in, week out, in League One. He's not someone that's going to come and sit on the bench, put it that way.
Yeah, completely agree. Obviously, there has been some other links out there, as you said. Adeyemi seems to be one that's really ramping up. I'm sure James Flower's ears are pricking up at this moment in time. As soon as you mention Adeyemi, or if you mention Vicario, he hears it, whether he's in the chat or he's not. Yildiz, as you said, I feel like for me, that's a player that's a little bit unrealistic unless if we go and sign Yildiz, then you turn around and go, okay, we're trying to become a
serious club. If they do that tomorrow, then I'll call the protest off.
Well, all of the board members that are watching, because we know you're watching, there's the statement, there's the fact. No protest if you go and get Yildiz over the line. Njai is obviously away AFCON. They've just gone through, I believe. I think they're now in the final.
Yeah.
So any signing or anything like that looks unlikely in the January transfer, but hey ho. And then obviously Akliouche is there as well. There has been reports that Spurs have identified the need for more of a creative passer from deep, but whether such a key signing can be made in January or not, it looks like it will probably be deferred to the summer. But then you could argue that we kind of say this every year, right? We always say that actually it can't be done right now, but give us a couple of months and we can get it over the line. I think Savinio was the prime example of that. It was almost like we tried. But in the summer, in the January window, we're going to kind of go in and go hard for these players, and then obviously it doesn't seem like to have happened. Obviously, halfway through, Chris, there's been a lot of debate in the fan base around the position that Spurs need. Gallagher kind of fell some of that fallout. I think that people were really frustrated that the ball playing midfielder wasn't the one that we went after. But you've obviously got that left wing, as Connor mentioned. The right wing is now a bit of a problem. So is it a versatile winger? Striker is obviously a bit of an issue. We're just overloaded in that space. If Spurs only make one more signing for this window, who do you think it will? What position, do you think it will be? And if you've got a player in mind, what one do you think is the most important for you?
I mean, Solanke coming back helps slightly. It's a striker that probably gives us something different to Richarlison, and there's a potential there to get some goals. But I think we need someone who can finish, someone who's going to give us the goals. For whatever reason, Kolo Muani he's just not been firing in front of goal. I know he scored the 2 goals against PSG and that was all good, but I think other than that, he's just not. And it's just, hopefully he gets one and he just kicks on and he keeps on going. But he's been close. But I feel like if we can get a striker, but I doubt we will get. I don't think a striker is going to be a priority this transfer window, unless it's a last few hours we just get someone else on loan, or we get someone at a stupid price because they want some more game time or whatever. But for me, it'd be we need someone who can finish. Yeah.
Ironically, I think that I know why Johnson was sold, and I wasn't on board with the sale on the basis that we didn't have anyone come in, and obviously that's now come to kick us because Kudos is out injured. But ironically, we kind of need a Johnson type player in terms of we just need someone that can come in and get some goals, right? Connor, at the moment we're lacking so much in the goal scoring department. We need someone that can come in and actually is going to create and score goals. And I think a lot of the wingers that we're looking at, or the rumours are, they're not actually players that are coming in to score loads of goals. Like even Lookman, who I think would be a great addition, probably a short-term fix in terms of he's probably not someone who's going to be here in 5 years. But at this moment in time, Tell has more league goals than him this year, which is pretty shocking considering you would expect him to be some sort of goal scorer, right? Do you think that the left wing position is the most important? Do you think it's the ball playing midfielder? Where are you kind of at with what we need to do with the rest of this window?
Yeah, I mean, ironically, given what I was saying earlier about the fact that Gallagher is not that ball playing midfielder, although, as I said, I really like the signing. Even saying that, I now think the ball playing midfielder they'll just wait until the summer, and I agree with you. I think with the injuries that we've got as well, with Kudus out and obviously Kulusevski and Madison have been out the whole time. For me, the next big signing needs to be an attacker who has output. To your point, because I think we just lack output. And to be honest, to some extent, if they identify, I agree with you. That left wing on paper is more important, but if they identify a right wing, say Akliouche is the one that is available this January, just go and get him because we just need to bolster that attack, right? And then work it out later, as I say. So yeah, I mean, if you'd asked me at the start of January, I would have said a ball playing midfielder. I don't think Gallagher solves our ball playing midfielder issue, but I think he's a really good midfield signing. So now it's an attacker for sure, and it's an attacker with output.
Yeah, and I also think the thing that's being underestimated with Gallagher is the fact that he solidified our midfield has been so open on so many occasions. If he's able to bring that in a little bit, as I said earlier, you kind of allow the attacking players to just go and attack. They've got less to worry about if you've got a solid base of the midfield. Then I think Palhinha and Gallagher in certain games. I think the thing with Gallagher is that Gallagher can almost be your linchpin midfielder, where in certain games Palhinha is your guy, and then in other games it may be a Sarr, it may be a Bergvall, it may be whoever you decide to put in there. He's the player that will play every single game. Whereas we thought Palhinha was going to be that, and then we was going to have to keep getting the player to come in and kind of play off of him. I think Gallagher will be the guy that will be there all of the time. And then, as I say, if you're playing City's away, them sort of games, Palhinha in there with him can go and do certain jobs. Whereas, as I say, Bergvall maybe, and hopefully it frees up Simmons a little bit to just kind of go and do and affect games up that pitch, because I think that's one of the biggest problems. And ironically, when the Conor Gallagher news broke, I was on Sava's show. Big up to Sava coming in. Huge donation. Cheers, mate. I really, really appreciate that. CG, my midfielder. Wanted him for 7 years since I saw him on loan at Charlton. Now, what's the plan, Enoch? Where's the wingers? Big up. Big up to you, my man. And I think you're right. If we was to have any ambition, we would go out and get multiple positions. I've said so many times, we all know that 70 million there, Savinio, is still there because it wasn't the player wasn't bought at the end of the summer. So we know that money's there. Effectively, we've got Gallagher out, we've got Johnson in, and there's no spend. So we know that money's still there. So if they wanted to push the boat out, you would hope that they could go and get two positions. But I think it is unlikely. There are several names that are being linked, but obviously, as I say, January is slightly more difficult. I think in terms of ambition, Connor, if they go and get one starter over the line, do you think that's enough of a window to kind of say, right, we've got to see what they're going to do in the summer? Do you think it's enough if they go and get, let's say it is a Lookman or someone of that sort of ilk, Akliouche you can add in there as well? Do you think that's enough to kind of get us by? Are they would it get, if Frank was to get another couple of months, and could we then say actually he has been backed because these are the players he's been brought in and everything else? What are your thoughts on that?
I think in the context of a January window, it would be a decent January window. Yeah, I mean, I think signing, let's just say it's Akliouche, for example. If it's Akliouche plus Gallagher, so you've got two that go straight into the starting 11, and then you've got, the left back depth, which we did need because Davis shouldn't be at the club anymore, right? Even though he's actually done okay in the games played. But I think the context that misses is the missed opportunity in the summer. The summer that just went when. It was the summer, we could still tell the story of, well, last season was a one-off. We won the Europa. We want to start competing again, blah, blah, blah. That's where they really missed the opportunity. It's not this January. I think we were all screaming out for a left winger, right? And many people were also saying about a ball playing midfielder in the summer, and that was the time to get them. And I think now judging a January alone is difficult because it is more difficult. You know, I think if we end up signing Akliouche, just for argument's sake, we probably overall will have had the best January window of any Premier League club in terms of multiple signings. Now, obviously, City have brought in Semenyo, which is a great signing alone. But it's the summer again, and then we'll go into next. But I know exactly what will happen as well. We'll go into next summer, and we'll all be having this same conversation in September. Of it's a shame we didn't just do that, because that is the way of Tottenham. That's the way of Enoch. We're always we're more than 1 or 2 players short total, but we're always 1 or 2 players short every window.
We're 1 or 2 short in every position. You can say that.
We are. yeah, we are. We are right now. But I think, look, because for me, I mean, the goalkeeper needs changing desperately. We need a ball playing midfielder. Look, there's all of those are for sure. Plus the ball playing midfielder's been missed there. So
to be fair, I think if you made 11 signings in the first 11, I think we'd have a pretty decent first 11. But it's the 11 signings that you need to get to, and Sava's come in saying the issue is we need so much more than the first 11. I completely agree. I think that I've said a lot with this squad, this group of players. I feel like a lot of them are the rotation or the sort of backup. None of them are the starting. Like what I said about Gallagher, he's your starting midfielder. And I feel like a lot of our players they're coming off the bench. You go, that's a decent option, but they shouldn't be the ones that are starting up front for you. They shouldn't be the ones that are starting on the wings for you, that sort of stuff. So I think that, and that's why the Gallagher sort of signing surprised me, is that I understand what people are saying, that it might not be the ideal signing that we get or we need. But the problem is that when do Spurs ever go out and get the ideal signing? What we need to stop doing is signing squad players, rotation players, players for the future. Go and sign players that improve this 11. Gallagher improves the 11. So I can't then sit there and say, oh, actually, you shouldn't have signed him. You should have signed someone else, because all I've been asking for is to sign players that improve the 11. You go and get a player that improves the 11, and then I'm saying, actually, I think you should have gone and signed him elsewhere and everything else. And as I said, keep going back to it, it is January. So there are a lot of clubs that won't allow the Semenyo deal you mentioned. That only went through because it was a release clause. In general, Bournemouth are not going to allow him to leave unless there was a release clause. So I think that's another part of it. We need to just keep improving the 11, and then eventually, as you said, Connor, we'll get to a situation where we can then work it out, because I think a lot of fans, and I'm guilty of this at times as well, Maddison and Kulusevski, we don't know how they're going to return. We don't know if they're going to return and become the players they are. If you was to go and get an Akliouche, and then you start naming off, you've got Akliouche, you've got Kudos, you've got Kulusevski, you've got Xavi Simons, you've got Maddison, all of a sudden, life's looking really rosy. But when you're playing in the Champions League, like I've seen a lot of people say, in the Champions League, maybe we don't put in the best, or we can rest the player here again in the Champions League. And it's like, well, if you do that, what is the focus? What are we trying to do? We want to get into the Champions League to rest players in the Champions League to then play back in the Champions League. And it's almost like but you need to have a great squad. You need to have a really good squad. And we don't have any of this at the moment. And it kind of goes back to Frank being backed and everything else. So I think that there are so many areas and players that need to be signed for this club. It's just we're in dire straits at this moment in time. But I think Gallagher is
just on that. While you're touching on that, do you think that not having the squad depth is probably a question for everyone on the panel? Do you think that not having the squad depth allows the sort of no competition for places? Because it doesn't. If you've got 4 really good centre midfielders and you only play with 2, the competition means that everyone's got to be superb in training all the time because they need to be fighting for their place. And I feel like Spurs have lacked that for so long now because of the lack of competition. Do you think that that's probably why as well our squad's never progressing, because we've only ever got one good player that's a guaranteed starter and there's no one there behind them to force them to, if I don't play well one game, he's going to come in and step in.
100%, and I'll let the guys answer, but I'll just throw my 2 pence in. A lot of people that are saying that Bergvall and Gray are not going to get the minutes because Gallagher's come in. Well, this will push them on, because if they can't get ahead of Gallagher, then they shouldn't be playing. Like, this is all part of it. They're going to learn from him off the pitch as well. They're going to learn from him on the pitch, but it is all about having a squad game. And as I say, I kept saying this last year, that in the same week, we might play Real Madrid away and then Burnley at home. You're not going to want the same midfield in them 2 games. You're going to want different midfielders, because we're not at a City level where you just play Rodri because he's the best out of everyone anyway. And also, so we're going to need different midfield makeups. We're going to need different positions and actually have combinations as well. But I'll go over to Connor. What are your thoughts on that one?
I completely agree with that. And then you get the issues like what we're seeing with Porro, where he's playing, every game over and over and over again, and then that's impacting his level of performance as well. You need that competition. I mean, you're seeing it, and on that point about Bergvall and Gray, you're spot on as well. I mean, you see this at Arsenal right now. Lewis Skelly was in the team last year, played really well, didn't really do anything wrong, got an England call up. He now never starts a game because, well, as long as Calafiori's fit, or to be honest, they're putting in Cappy or all of, I've got Arsenal fan mates that were all calling Lewis Skelly generational last year, and then they were texting this week saying we can't play Lewis Skelly because he's looked all over the place. We need to put Timber out at left back and stuff. So
Enquiries as well. Enquiries as well. Every time he comes in,
exactly, and that's a functioning football team, right? The worst thing you can do for young players is throw them into this shit show where they're getting booed by their own fans, and it's a completely dysfunctional football team. What you want is to be bringing Bergvall on in a game we're winning 3-0 and say, yeah, Bergvall, have 20 minutes, go and express yourself, mate.
Show me what you can do.
And then they'll actually develop, Whereas what we're asking Bergvall to do is we're going, we've just lost 9 games in a row. Can you go and get us a result at Bournemouth away?
Yeah, produce the
and
magic.
We're going to stick you out on the right wing. So like we don't give them any chance, and people mistake minutes for actually, giving them development. I would argue that Bergvall's gone backwards from last season. Archie Gray's not developing. It's not our problem really to worry about it. We just get better players in, play better, and then they'll get opportunities if they deserve them.
Young players don't always improve just by starting them. That's not how football works. I mean, like I heard everyone was saying last year about Ajayi when he came in and had one good game, and he should be starting. Well, he's just gone on loan to the League Two team because he was playing in League One. Well, he actually weren't playing in League One, so he's gone to League Two. So it isn't just a case of bring young players in and start them every single game and they'll develop. And Archie Gay's probably a prime example. I think he's probably developed off the field in terms of mentality, understanding the pressures and everything else. But in terms of the way that he plays football, I've not seen a great improvement from him from when he first started to now. So that's exactly it. You don't just turn around and play every game and therefore get better. That's not how it works. Bill, where do we start? Mate? So obviously in terms of... Oh, sorry, actually, let's just go on to this point that was made. Connor, I know you wanted to mention about it as well. Bill, this is leading on to what we were talking about transfers and everything else. An article that was mentioned about the £1 billion that Spurs have spent, and it's more than Arsenal. You don't seem to hear that narrative. Is this not another just indication of poor recruitment, poor everything at this club for the amount of money that we've spent and how far we are away from anything that's competitive?
It is, mate. I won't. Me and Connor were talking about this earlier. I won't go into what I'm sure that he's about to say next. But I think what it does indicate is that you can spend money, but if you don't spend it wisely, then you're in trouble. And I think again, I seem to do this on every podcast now, and I hate it, but when you sort of look across the road to how they're doing and what they're doing, I think a big part of why they are so successful and, the dreaded trophies look like they might be coming this season, which we're all fearing, top of the league, about to get into Carabao Cup final, that unfortunately, Arsenal are doing really, really well. We've got to pray for Man City for the rest of the season. But if you look at the recruitment they've had over the last 5, 6, 7 years, the number of misses is minimal compared to the number of misses that we've had. Like, it's chalk and cheese. I know Gyökeres looks like a high-profile miss, but they very rarely get it wrong. People that they buy, like Hincapi, to be their backup centre-back, and then will be our best centre-back by, stuff like that. So, and they seem to get it right in the transfer money because they pay a lot of money. I know, Connor will talk a bit more about that in a minute, but recruitment is really, you can spend as much money as you want, but if you don't spend it on the right players, the right caliber of players, then it doesn't really matter. You have to be, and one of the mantras that Tottenham have at Tottenham, I think, if you broke down that billion, for example, obviously for Arsenal, the caliber of player, if you look at that, then Tottenham have never had a player anywhere near 100 million or anything like that. 100 million of Arsenal's billions. I would go on Declan Rice and look at what an incredible player he is. So I think sometimes Tottenham, rather than spending, go and buying an 80, 90 million pound player, they'd be more happy to buy 30 million pound players, something like that. But I'll let Connor talk about it in a bit more detail because we were discussing this earlier.
Yeah, I'll come on to you in a second. I just want to say a massive shout out, Paul Brand, becoming a YouTube member and then very, very kindly donating 5 gifted subs to other people in the chat. Guys, if you're someone who has received the sub, please make sure you say thank you to Paul. Much appreciated for that, man. Connor, coming over to you. £1 billion spent really poorly in my eyes because as you say, you got Declan Rice's. I'm sure the billion that Arsenal have spent, a lot of their money spent is still in that first 11, starting week after week. What were your thoughts when you see that come out being the money man at Spurs?
I think there's a few points. I think there's no doubt that since Poch went and we've moved into the new stadium, we've started to spend more on transfers than we did before that. But I did, and Bill is absolutely right. We've had a number of recruitment misses, and it comes down to you buy shit, you buy twice, right? And that's what's happened with a lot of ours, is that we're replacing shit players with more shit players, and that just continues. But I did also think it was massively disingenuous, the comparison, right? Mm-hmm. It was basically some journo put out on Twitter, and it was obviously to try and stir up from all the Arsenal fans going, oh look, Tottenham have spent more than us, and look how much better we are. And when you actually break it down, I mean, there's so many different points. I mean, the first one is, if you actually look over the last 10 years and you add net spend plus wages, Arsenal have spent £1 billion more than us in that time. So let's not use this to prove some sort of ambition point from ENIC, because as I say, in the last 10 years, it's £1 billion of difference between the two clubs on wages and net spend. And I think that's a much fairer comparison, actually, of what the relative ambition of the two football clubs has been.
Don't get me started on wages.
Well, exactly, and that's another reason. Yeah, and that's another reason why we end up having we have a lot of recruitment misses, right? It's because actually it's very different targeting a £60 million striker who's on 90 grand a week versus a £60 million striker who's on 250 grand a week. That's ends up being sort of £30 million of difference over the life of their contract, and so that's why you do have to look at wages as well, for sure. But I think as well that the other big bit of context that people miss is, because of how badly ENIC backed Poch, they backed themselves into this corner of having to do this huge rebuild at a time when transfer prices went up. If they'd just spent money gradually, didn't go 3 windows without signing a single player, gave Poch more than £13 million net a year, and did it gradually at that time, they would have spent a fraction of what they've ended up spending on a load of shit under all different managers, different tactics, different systems. So one point you're signing right wing backs and left wing backs, then you realise they don't work, and you need to sign a fullback, and it's our own bad planning that has led to that overspend as well. But also that overspend is disingenuous when you actually compare it to Arsenal. So I think there's lots of points, but I think it all really points back to, no one can actually use this as a reason to defend that ENIC are actually back in the football club by saying, oh, they've spent £1 billion in that time, because one, the money they have spent has been their own fault, and two, they still haven't spent as much as any of the other big six when you actually do the true comparison.
Yeah, Chris, does this comment just sum up your thoughts and feelings to our absolute powerhouse of spending money? The fact that Werner gets
Werner was on 175 grand a week. I'm sure he was on. I don't even know how much Ndombele he was on, because that, again, it's just money thrown away. We give these big contracts out, and then it's like the players go, oh, that's fine, we'll just, or the talent's not there, or we've not done our due diligence on their attitude and stuff. But Timo Werner will always go down as that wage will always stick with me forever, and it'll be a pain in my brain forever.
And this is the point, right? Let this sink in. £1 billion spent in 6 years, yet we're all here talking about needing 10 to 12 players in the squad. Like, it's just negligence. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Guys, we have got. I've just had a little look on the pinned message. We currently have the boys on 522 subscribers. There is over 100 people in here. Let's see if we can get them over to 550. 28 of you need to go over, hit the link there, go and subscribe, get the guys over to 550
Thank you,
subscribers.
man. Thank you very much.
It will be very much appreciated. First show tomorrow, first ever show. They will be doing Change for Tottenham Talk, and then they will have obviously other shows lined up as well. But please go over, show some love. As I've always said about the Spurs fan base, we all go through watching these games week in, week out, and it's very, very difficult. So show as much support as you possibly can. It would be very much appreciated. Odebert can only wish to have Werner's career. He can certainly only wish to have his money. I can tell you that much for 175 grand a week. Here you go, boys. If any of you are free,
very kind. Sav, I'll drop you a text, mate.
Perfect.
I'm in.
There you go, guys. Let's see. Well, Savara, he has a couple more viewers than me on occasions. I'm sure he'll be able to help. As I said, guys, there's 26 more needed to get them over to 550. We are going to wrap up in a minute. One of the reports that I've seen that I really, really like is the fact that Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott seems to be a target for Tottenham. I think he would be a very, very good player. He's obviously a Tottenham fan as well. Chris, we're going to come to you, and we are going to just say, give me your thoughts on Alex Scott, and then we will, or if there's other centre midfielders that you would like to see at Spurs, because I think that is a key position that Spurs need to go and target. If it's not now, it will be in the summer, and then we'll just do a quick tally up of the West Ham score and what our predictions are, my man.
Yeah, I do like Alex Scott. He's looked good in bits that I've seen this season, so would definitely be one to keep an eye on and look at.
You like him, yeah? Tottenham fan as well.
He looks tidy. I think we was linked with him a couple of years ago when they come up, or I don't know he wasn't playing for Bournemouth. I think he was playing for.
No, it was when he went to Bournemouth. We was linked.
Right, okay.
Oh, was he at Bristol City or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
it might have been. But yeah, I know we was linked with him a few years ago, and it might have been too early to get him because we might have had a similar like Archie Gray situation we've got now. So maybe now he has had a couple of seasons in the Premier League and he's showing his worth still. Maybe it is worth going in and doing that thingy. But you've got to rely on the scouts to go in and pick this up and sign him. So hopefully we can make that a transfer in the summer, and maybe with a new manager as well, playing him under a different tactic. Be good.
Yeah. Connor, what did you think about Alex Scott? Do you think he's the sort of ball-playing midfielder that we'd need or not?
I think he's neat and tidy, but this is ambitious because obviously, where we currently are, I do appreciate, but I think we need to go bigger than that. I think, to me, it's the most important sort of big signing that we can make. If you look at who you're comparing against, if we're, the likes of Bruno Guimaraes, Declan Rice and Zubamendi, the Caicedo, these are the types that you're comparing against who are our apparent rivals. And so for me, Scott is not at that level yet. He may get there. So for if I'm in dreamland, it's the sort of Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson type. I think Elliot Anderson is going to end up at City, to be honest. There's loads of rumours about that already. I think you can see that happening. And then who knows with Adam Wharton, again, I think we'll struggle given where we are, unfortunately, because of what Enoch have done. Coney, I really like at Roma. I think there's a number of options abroad, but I think for me, it needs to be 60, 70 million plus on this next midfield signing, and someone you really feel you can actually build around for 4 or 5 years. Because it's the most important part of the pitch, right? You win the midfield, you often win the game.
Yeah.
Yep, which I think has been seen quite a few occasions for us, particularly the stat about who played more progressive passes, and we've been dominated by other midfielders. Billy, do you think Alex Scott is someone we should be looking at, or do you think we should be trying to aim higher?
Mate, I've got the receipts here. 2023, I was tweeting about Alex Scott saying that we should sign him. There you go. 2023, Alex Scott. Because I knew that he was a Spurs fan. He was really good. But I think Connor's right. I think he'd be a good signing alongside someone else as well. I see that he's quite strongly linked to Man City and Man United as well. I think he's a really good player. But I think we probably missed the boat on that. It's the same with, with Wharton as well. Like, we were linked with Wharton when he was at Blackburn. We don't ever sort of play this player. And I do get the other side of the argument. Is if Adam Wharton signed for us, he'd probably be loaned out somewhere and looking rubbish by now, wouldn't he? And gone to, playing at Fulham or something like that. So you never know of these things. But we need some real quality in our midfield. I think, like anyone, Adam Wharton would be the dream signing, Elliot Adamson, something like that. But I know there's Alex Garcia playing in the Bundesliga. It's supposed to be really decent. We just need some real quality in that midfield, and it's got to be someone that can make a pass because we've got another number 8 now added to the mix. If you could reel off our number 8s, we've got Basuma, Conor Gallagher, Bentancur, Sarr, loads of them, but we don't have a deep line playmaker. It's a real bad profile in this year that we have. So yeah, I'd love to go and spend some get a real quality one in. Obviously, Adam Wharton would be the absolute dream, but if you're Adam Wharton right now, are you going to come to Tottenham? I wouldn't imagine so. The shambles that we're in, but that's the kind of player that we definitely need.
Yeah, guys. And in the chat as well, come on.
Sav has put Locatelli in the chat as well. That'll be one of my dream signings as well. I think he's an absolute class.
Yeah, Locatelli's class.
Neves seems to be one that
a bit of Paratici can maybe do one last one before he goes, maybe.
Like I think he's come to the end, or coming to the end of his contract in Saudi, and obviously that does mean that he's not on the he'd be on 350 grand or whatever, but he's not got to pay tax to come back, which I think everyone was speaking about Tony. And it's like, he's got to pay 15 million pounds to the tax man. He's not coming back to Spurs to forking out 15 million. I'd rather stay wherever I am for another 6 months, sort of thing. So that's definitely one. But then again, I think you've got the other guys that are saying, all of these players here 100% improve us, but are they a bit of a pipe dream in terms of, are any of them realistically going to come to us? Gomez is probably the only one at Wolves. All the rest of them, there's an argument that they'll be looking at other clubs. But hey, you've got to target better players to improve yours, right? So we'll move on to the West Ham game. I just want to get some score predictions. We was all saying that it's a massive game and that we need 3 points. Chris, we'll start with you. Where do you sit with your prediction against West Ham?
I'm going to go 3-1 Spurs.
3-1.
I feel like we'll get a goal. They'll come back, and then I think we'll get another one and just kick on, and then just kill the game off in the last 10.
Wow. Okay, it's a lot more positive than I thought we was going to be. Connor, what are your thoughts?
2-0 Spurs. I think we'll beat West Ham. Yeah, look, it's been a long time since I've actually been looking forward to going to the Tottenham Stadium. I'm not sure whether that's because we're playing West Ham or because I'm looking forward to going to the protest, to be honest, and seeing people there. But I do think we'll beat West Ham. I think 2-0, and I think it'll be a bit like the Brentford at home game.
Cool. We've got some really positive. Are we positive just because of how bad West Ham are? Is that what?
Yeah. That's the main driver, mate.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing to do with us being good. Okay, perfect. Bill, what are your predictions?
I'm going 3-0. I think Xavi's going to have a real good game this weekend. I think he showed it in parts against in the second half against Aston Villa, and West Ham won't be able to handle that. So 3-0, and the Thomas Frank in trainer, we're back.
Thomas Frank in train. There you go, guys. You heard it here first. We're going to have a good, convincing win, and Thomas Frank, we're all aboard.
Maybe Heitinga will make the difference, and then everyone's thinking, why is he not our manager?
What's your prediction, Luke?
I'm going to go 2-0. I think we'll be solid. I think Gallagher will play, and I think he is going to make an immediate impact. I'm not saying he will score or assist or anything like that, but I feel like he's going to have a good performance. I think it's almost the perfect game for him to come in.
Their midfield
and I
shit
think,
as well. Their midfield is terrible. So.
They've only really got Bowen, haven't they? Now, I mean, their best players are Afcon, isn't he? Diouf, who's well good, but he's a brilliant player. But I'd love to sign him, by the way, as a left back, or right back, where he plays.
100%. Yeah.
Do you guys think that if we did lose, do you think Frank would go? I think he'd be under massive pressure, wouldn't he?
I think it would be the closest he's ever been to going. I think it'd
it'd be unthinkable if we lose this game, surely. Unthinkable. Yeah. We can't lose this one.
Do you know what? I think
obviously, the next 3 or 4.
I think it depends. Part of me is thinking Vinay's going to give him more time because I think he's just that type of guy now. And after the whole Arteta thing, and you could just see it. And even the way that, as we were saying earlier, the way they're talking right now, and about Frank's convinced Gallagher and the coach, and I think I think they'll give him more time. But that being said, I think if we got big numbers on the protest and then we lose, they might go, "Oh, this is a way to quickly take some heat off of us." That was the old Levy special, wasn't it? Of let's give the manager the chop because it makes people stop talking about me for a little while. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, hopefully we're not in that because we can't be losing to West Ham for fuck's sake.
It's a massive couple of weeks because you've got obviously the West Ham game, and then you've got
midweek as well. Yeah,
tough game midweek. Then you've got the Premier League fixture on a weekend, and then there's another Champions League game. So if he struggles in them, it could mean that
don't even look at the February fixtures.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. If you look at that, so what we've got it's Burnley, isn't it? So you've got West Ham and Burnley. If you don't get 6 points out of them, and then you even drop points in the Champions League, you could be really struggling. So I think the next
Arsenal, United, Newcastle in a row.
Yeah, but I think the next 4, like if he goes and beats West Ham and Burnley, then he maybe gets a little bit of a leeway against the better teams. But if he loses to them two, and then you've got that, they're the ones that follow. It's like, wow, he's really gonna struggle. So, yeah, guys, we are gonna leave it there. We've got a 5-0. Adrian coming in. He is absolutely believing in Spurs. Guys, a massive thank you to you all. We are going to wrap up there. As I've said earlier, please make sure you go over and subscribe to the pinned message that's in the chat. The guys will be going live tomorrow on the first show. It will be 9 p.m. So make sure you go and hit the notify me tab over there and show some love for the guys on their first ever show. Change for Tottenham, I believe, Connor, is the first episode that you're going to be discussing about.
Yeah. So we're given the protest in a Change for Tottenham special. So we've got Jay joining us as well, who's one of the Change for Tottenham spokespeople. So Billy don't have to do all the talking about it. He can actually help host. And then we're it's not all going to be heavy ENIC out Change for Tottenham type stuff. So don't worry, there will be more generic shows coming.
Right, well, guys, thank you very much. As I said, make sure you go over there, smash the like button, subscribe to them. I've put all of the X's accounts for everybody in the chat as well. So please go over and follow everybody there. Thanks very much for coming through, guys. Sava dropping a massive donation twice. Appreciate that. Thank you, my man. Paul Brown as well, coming in with becoming a member and then gifting 5 subs as well. Much appreciated. Thank you all. I really appreciate all the support that we continue to get on the channel. It's absolutely crazy. We are going to send you straight over to Sava's stream that starts at 11 o'clock tomorrow. So go straight over to there and just drop a like on his stream. But yeah, as I said, guys, thank you very much. Hopefully Spurs can do the business over the weekend. We shall see. This is not a fixture that you can lose to, particularly not me who lives very near West Ham.
We also can't do a Sunday stream, Luke, where it's negative again. We need some positivity on a Sunday stream.
Maybe we just need to sign a new director of football or a scout or something. We could talk about that. Another positive signing. Guys, last thing as always from us. Come on, you Spurs. Thank you very much. See you later.